Hello and welcome, Microbehunter here, and today I want to respond to a question that I received per email. Somebody is kind of fearing that he or she is infected with a parasite and now would like to know how you can identify this parasite using a microscope. And I have to say I'm not a doctor, and I also do not advise to do any form of self-diagnosis. This is really something that is problematic, I think. However, I still want to help people who come to me for advice. And for this reason, I will give you my honest opinion on this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simply read out the question to you. It's actually quite a lengthy one. I find myself in the inevitable position of having to discover the identity of a parasite which has taken over my body. Without an identification, I'm unable to get much assistance from the medical field. My question is threefold. Number one, what area to take a sample, for example, from an eruption, or it's an site of infection from a sore, nearby or just anywhere, as the infestation is quite extensive, I would think from anywhere. Question number two, should I look for adult specimens or larvae or eggs? Or number three, is there any literature concerning this endeavor? The list could go on, which is the reason I can't get any assistance. I got the parasite, I think, from drinking contaminated water from a construction site. Piping had been left on the ground during the rainy season and I have reason to believe were contaminated with eggs and larvae. I drank the water for several months before the infestation became apparent. What little I've found on the subject, the only likely pest is the sewer gnat, a toilet fly. Don't remember the scientific name. Should I be looking under low magnification? How to prepare a slide for this, and are there any books showing the different stages of development? I hope you can give me some directions. I'm at my wit's end. First of all, thank you very much for the question. And there are a whole bunch of issues that I simply want to talk about here. And then later on, I'm going to give you a more detailed answer here. First of all, a couple of things that I simply have to say and have to get off my heart here. First of all, you should not be self-diagnosing yourself. This is indeed the job of the doctor. And the sentence that you said here, without an identification, I'm unable to get much assistance from the medical field. I have to admit this sentence disturbed me. Because it should not be left up to the patient to tell the doctors what they have. That's the doctor's job. And if you're not able to get the attention of a doctor of the medical field, then there is a fundamental problem somewhere else. Okay? Because this is not the way it should be. Yeah, not your fault, obviously, if this is the case, but I mean, I'm just saying that this is not the way it should be. Number two, a second comment that I would like to make here, and I'm just going to be very direct at you. I think some doctors might not like it if you already approach them telling them what you have. So be careful with that. This is another thing. And the third thing that I have to say is the following. You already assume that you have a parasite. You cannot jump to that conclusion unless you have very solid evidence for this. And if you have sores all over your body, of course, this could be maybe an allergic reaction due to an infection by a parasite. There are certain worms that are able to cause allergic reaction, Ascaris, for example. Has been known to do that, but it doesn't mean that you have a parasite infection. So the diagnosis of what it is should always be at the end, and not right at the beginning. What you might be trying to do is you already formed your conclusion that you have a parasite, and now you try to find evidence for this. But that's not the way that science works and the way that you should do it, because what happens then is you go into the direction of that we call confirmation bias. This is essentially a big problem also in the sciences, that's where scientists are convinced of a certain theory and then they try to find evidence that kind of supports their theory. As a matter of fact, it should be exactly the other way around. You do not look for the facts that kind of support your theory, but actually you form a conclusion based on the facts. So from the procedure here, I just consider this a little bit problematic. But then I would like to go a little bit in more detail here. Generally, if you have an infection or infestation, with a parasite or anything else or any other pathogen, then the diagnosis of this should be done based on the symptoms first. So if you have some kind of I'll give you an example. If you are able to find, if you're infected or infested rather with a tapeworm, which lives in your intestine, and if you see white little spots in your stool, then these are the so-called the proglottids of the tapeworm, or they are the eggs in there, and you are able to see that. You don't need a microscope for that. Once you send a stool sample to the lab, and they will confirm it, and then you take anti-worm medication. Yeah. But for that you don't need a microscope. Yeah. And here, if it could be any type of parasite, and I don't know, maybe there are hundreds, possibilities here. If you don't know anything more specific, then you're also not able to confirm it. So this means I would not know where to take the sample from, because it depends on the parasite. I'll give you an example. I mean, malaria, again, that's a parasite that infects the red blood cells. In this case, if you have the symptoms like fevers, and then chills, and you're living in a malaria region, this is a pretty good indicator maybe there's malaria there. And then you can take a blood sample and check for the malaria parasite. But you first start off with the symptoms. Yeah, because you cannot test through so many different things. Yeah, so you're asking me where should I take the sample from, and the answer would be, well, it kind of depends a little bit which type of parasite it is. Yeah, I'm not able to give you an answer here. Or should I look for the adult specimens or larvae or eggs? Again, it depends a little bit on the type of parasites. And if you are able to see something in your stool, for example, provided that those eggs are large enough, then you know that you have to look in the stool, and then you're able to find maybe the eggs. So I wanted to say this here a little bit is that in order to do this, you need more information, and you cannot go directly from the assumption that you have a parasite directly, some kind of parasite directly to the microscope. It's got to be more specific than that, and then you can use, under some circumstances, the microscope as a last step to actually confirm it if you see it. Yeah, but not right here at the beginning. So this is a little bit the strategic issue that we have here. From your text, I was able to gather a little bit that you seem to have kind of sores all over the place. If indeed this could be an indirect response of a parasite infestation, like an allergic reaction, and in this case you would not find any adults or eggs or larvae inside the sores, because the sores appear as a response of your immune system. But the parasite is actually somewhere else. Okay, so see what I mean here. You cannot really say it right now. However, there are also certain parasites where indeed the worm actually is able to live in a sore on your hand somewhere. Okay, there are also these parasites. So again, here there is simply not enough information here. And again, this is something that actually a medical doctor has to take care of. Is there any literature concerning this endeavor? Of course there is. You call it the study of medicine and parasitology. That's a huge field, and therefore, because individual people cannot have this knowledge, that's why you have specialists who do this, and these are the doctors. And that's why I was a little bit surprised by your statement that you're not able to get the assistance from the medical field without you having done some previous identification. I think this is a problem, and there could also be another reason for this. Is you see, some doctors might be a little bit suspicious already from the beginning if patients approach them saying, well, I have a parasite infection, I have an autoimmune disorder, I have this, I have that, I have cancer, I've got a tumor, I have a belly ache, and it's a tumor, right? The patient already knows it's a tumor even before they've done any specific diagnosis. And some doctors respond a little bit sensitively to that, because they say, okay, again, a patient who's kind of getting paranoid, and they have this immediate rejection maybe. And therefore, I would say let's stay on purely on medical grounds or with the symptoms. Okay, so do you have a rash? Okay, then this has to be treated. What could it be? Yeah, and this is a little bit the issue here, where I kind of I'm a little bit worried that maybe some doctors are that you might not get the attention of some doctors because you kind of already approach them with a finished diagnosis, and then you have this psychological barrier being built up here. Just a guess, okay? So and another thing where I want to talk a little bit about the life cycle of certain of certain parasites. I mean, I was just mentioning Ascaris because it's one that is can be taken up. The eggs are taken up over the food, over contaminated food. And what happens then is that the eggs are swallowed. The worms, they form in the intestine, then they go into the blood. From the blood, it goes into the lungs. Then the people cough it up, and then they swallow it again, and then it goes out the stool, and then it goes on the field again. That's the life cycle, right? But what I wanted to make clear here, in this life cycle, we don't have a fly or a sewer gnat in there, like you mentioned. Yeah. So what is really important is that different parasites or different pathogens generally, they have their own preferred way of being transmitted, and what we see right now here is we're going all off into all different directions, and then you want to already do a microscopic analysis. And I'm just saying I wouldn't know where to start because it could be anything. It could maybe not even be a parasite infection. Maybe there was some other chemical in the water that caused a certain reaction, or maybe it was something that you've eaten during that time. I just want to give you an example. Back in the history, malaria, as I already mentioned, people didn't know that mosquitoes actually transmit the parasite. And the word malaria actually comes, I think, from the French language, mal air. It's bad air. So they thought actually that the disease spreads over the bad air. Well, it wasn't because you found it in the airs of swamps and moist regions, right? You've got bad air there, foul-smelling air. But in reality, it was not the bad air, but the mosquito. So you see, it was kind of correlated, but the bad air was not the cause for malaria. It was the mosquito. And for this reason, in the past, also in medical history, many people kind of misassociated certain things. And it's kind of problematic. If you jump to a too early conclusion, then you might have completely ignored other possibilities that actually might be the reason for your disorder or disease or rash or whatever it could be. So this is a little bit the thing that I'm a little bit concerned about the process here. So even though I'm pretty much into microscopy, microscopy doesn't solve everything. So and especially the whole issue of self-diagnosis, also on my web forum and in the comment section of my YouTube channel, there's so many people they're ill or they have a problem, a medical issue, and they want to know what it is, and they have a microscope, or they want to get a microscope to check it. But it doesn't work like this, and it's dangerous, as a matter of fact, because it might actually lead you into a wrong direction. Maybe not, but it could be, and that is a little bit the problem. And experience has shown that this has happened already so often in medical history, especially with self-diagnosis, where people who indeed have a medical problem, are so convinced that it is one thing that they've got that they completely ignored all other possibilities which are actually the cause. And for this reason, the microscopic check, so to say, or the actual has to be at the very end of a sequence of tests. Where if you ruled out already other possibilities, and not at the beginning where you try to confirm a theory that you already have. Maybe it is correct, but we don't know for 100%. So this is a little bit the issue that I'm having here. So my suggestion is also, I mean, do other people have this problem, a similar problem? Okay, that would be another thing to look out for. If are you the only one who's been drinking from this water? And another thing that I'm kind of a little bit concerned here, and that's also nothing to do with your question, really. Honestly, if you find those larvae, eggs, and so on in drinking water, then this means that this water must have been contaminated with sewage, I think. Because this is how it spreads over the stool. And then that's already a problem. Because then, I mean, there have to be a whole bunch of other issues as well. I mean, then there must be some kind of E. coli bacteria or salmonella or whatever also in there, which essentially cause diarrhea and so on. So, then we've got a much larger problem, because in the drinking water, in tap water, there should not be, any sewage, and that's already a whole different issue. Okay, so that's pretty much that I can do. Is I have to disappoint you a little bit, I guess. But still, you are asking how do you prepare a slide for this, and are there any books showing the different stages of development? If you just type in, if you're just interested in type life cycle of certain parasites into Google search, in picture search, you find tons of pictures about the life cycles of different parasites, and you can see that many of them are quite different from each other, and therefore, I tell you a funny story really. A neighbor's kids were playing out on the playground, and the kids were taking stones and rocks into their mouth, just playing around with this. And then my neighbor, the mother already said, there are going to be worms here. And sure enough, some days later there was an itching in the anus, and this is where the worms crawled out. Relatively harmless, but they reproduced in the intestine because the kids indeed have been taking up eggs of worms, and then they reproduced in the intestine. And then what? How do you treat that? You just went to the drugstore and got some anti-worm medication, and this kind of solved the problem. So there are actually anti-worm medications. I myself have taken them before I did some traveling to regions where I did not fully trust the water and the food, if it was not properly boiled, for example. So boil your water. Then in order to prevent this, I indeed also took anti-worm medication. So I'm not saying that this is not an issue. But all I'm trying to say is that one should not jump to too early of a conclusion, and one should actually go not self-diagnosis, but one should go into do a proper medical checkup. It's too serious. You don't want to play around with your health. That's why I'm a little bit against the whole issue of self-diagnosis and so on. Because it's simply a serious issue. Health generally, even if the actual disease or the actual condition or is not life-threatening. I mean, it's your health, and that's why you want to take it serious. So that's simply as you say, my 2 cents worth of the whole thing. I've been already talking again for 17 minutes. I hope that it was still a more or less useful answer to your question. I wish you all the best, and bye-bye.